Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to the Explosive Podcast. This is episode 6 and today we are talking about how to expand your network, but also how to use social media to help you expand in general and how to help your business grow. So, firstly, welcome back to the podcast. This episode, again, is going to be just myself. Hopefully you guys are starting to see the structure now where it will basically be one or two guests and then it'll be one episode with me. I personally feel like the episodes flow a little bit better when it's not just me, mainly because trying to do everything in one take when it's just me to bounce off is a little bit of hard work. So I'm tempted to maybe get Daniel back in, the guy from the first two episodes. We have some quite good back and forth, and I think there's some really good convos and subjects that we can sort of talk on and dive into with each other, and it's a lot better if we can sort of bounce off each other because we've both got different views. So let me know what you guys think about that. But as I say, today's episode is on how to expand your business and how to sort of grow your business in general, how to expand and how to use social media to help do that. This is something that I was able to do, sort of over the last 3-4 years, and Instagram has played a massive part in sort of the client base that I have now. I have made some notes as well, so if you're on the video version and keep seeing me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. I don't want to mess this up. So firstly, let's start off with how to expand in general. So one thing I would say to do, and lots of people have sort of covered this, is make it aware to people, that they know what you do. So make it aware to them that you are a camera person, that you're a videographer, content creator. This can apply to any business you're in. So whether you're a football coach, a graphics designer, a saxophone player, it can literally apply across the board. The more people know the job that you do, the better response, and in general, the larger network of people are going to be aware of what your actual job description is, or the creative skill that you have. So by doing this and just letting people know, it's not sort of bragging, oh hi everyone, I do this. It's no, if people ask, you just say to them, even if you have a part-time job, just say to them, yeah, I'm a videographer, or if you're a female, just be like, yeah, I'm a makeup artist. If you sort of just let people know what you do, I say almost at every opportunity, but the more people that are aware of what you do, then that will lead on to more clients. So I know one thing that in the podcast with James Matthews Media, if you listen to that, the last episode, last week's one, James went into delved into the fact that when he come out of university, or as he was leaving university, he made sure that everyone knew that he was a cameraman. So when he come out, he was nice and set up to delve sort of straight into it. So I think just making it aware to people, to family members, to friends, just letting people know, because sometimes people might not actually know. So even a weird thing with some of my family is that where I used to DJ years ago, they only knew me from that. So they thought with all my traveling I did, I was still DJing. And I was like, no, I'm a camera person. So if I had actually told them or made it more clear to them that I was a photographer, videographer, they would have then, you don't know how many people they would then recommend you to. Family and friends will really sort of shout your praises, and people trade business a lot on word of mouth. You can read as many reviews online as you want, but if your best friend or a family member has said, no, look, trust me, use them, like I'm giving you my word, use them, you're going to take that person's word for it first, rather than the reviews online. So don't ever underestimate the power of having a large network and people's, or your reputation that people will put forward for you. So if someone else will speak your praises, a lot of the time that's half the work done with getting that client. That's when I sort of went, I know I've only touched on it just slightly in previous podcasts, is that reputation is so important, because the minute you start getting a bad rep, or people, maybe they have just one or two bad things to say, it then just starts to tarnish it. And as I say, words, they really do help, and word of mouth is such a big key player in building a business and building a brand. So bouncing off the back of that would be network. So firstly, you've got sort of like your local area. So even if you live in a small little village, There's lots of villages that have, say, coffee shops. That's the first one that sort of springs to mind. But say like independent estate agencies. Like that's a great one to delve into. Like independent estate agencies might want to showcase certain houses, and let's say you offer them a video of a house. Let's say you charge, I don't know, £300 average house. Obviously, it depends on your area, but let's say the average house sells for 250k. Obviously, the company will take a percent on that, and then the agent who has sold the house will then take their percentage out of that. Now, if normally, let's say it takes them 6 weeks to sell a house, that's 6 weeks it's on the market, it's 6 weeks that they can't take on a potential another house, and so on. So obviously, all houses have photos anyway. If they can then provide a video to their potential buyers, and they sell that house in 50% of the time, so they sell it in, say, 2 to 3 weeks, that then means they can then take on another house. And then so all of a sudden, they've basically doubled the amount of houses they can take on, therefore doubling their yearly income, therefore doubling their turnover of, housing. So using a model like that, it sort of, it just shows that there's so many little, some people say that you can't really build it if you're in a small town or small village, but every single town and village has small independent businesses that need video production or they need content creation. We are coming into it's becoming now a lot more mainstream, especially if you've looked into it a lot more, or you follow Gary Vee, or just analyze social media in general. You will see now over the last few years, people are starting to realize that you need social content. It's, prime example is maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, but let's say maybe 5 years ago, your parents were only just getting onto Facebook. Now your parents probably use Facebook more than you. So, there's all sorts of people on Instagram now. Instagram is for everyone. Yes, the majority is probably, or let's say millennials. I don't really like to use that word, but just to categorize the sort of age group, we're talking obviously, let's say from 14, 15 up to say your 27, 28, let's say your 30s. That is the majority bulk of Instagram. However, you have still got other people that are going on to that now. We have there's a family member within my business, or a family member within my family has a business, and they're not on social media, and I'm trying to invest the time to get them onto social media, but obviously I'm very busy to do that, and I can understand, and I see where people find it hard sometimes to explain the benefits to people of moving onto social media. At the end of the day, you're trying to explain to them they have nothing to lose. So, but obviously if someone doesn't get it and they don't understand it, it can be quite hard. So sometimes you just have to sort of try and test waters, explain to them, look, this is how we did this is how we do that. So in my example, I basically ran an ad campaign over the Christmas period. We spent X amount of money. I explained to them it's trial and error. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's all about getting the audience correct. But I think we had for the money we spent on the ad and the return that we got, even if we got 2 or 3 extra customers in, we would have made the money back. And I think it's just breaking it down into smaller segments for businesses that don't fully understand the social media. So, yeah, it's just sort of, I guess it's sort of implying empathy a bit, seeing it from their point of view that they might have heard stories. Obviously, you don't know what people say to other people, so they might have had someone say to them, oh yeah, we used Facebook ads, we spent £500 and we got nothing off of it. Well, that's probably because their targeting was crap. So you're not going to get the return if your targeting's crap. So it's just sort of explaining it to people, breaking it down. But as I say, every single local area has got little independent chains, independent coffee shops, estate agents, sports coaches. I'm trying to think of just things off the top of my head here, but all these little areas have things which have sectors or entrepreneurs, I guess, or independent businesses in which you can approach and just let them be aware of what you do and your services. I delved into one of the previous episodes, I think it was episode 3, about you sometimes, if you're first moving into that sector, you offer them, something for free just to show them what you can showcase. And then once they've got that, you can say, look, this is what I can do. Then you show them the price for it. Obviously, if you're already developed, then that might not necessarily apply to you. And you can go in and say, okay, well, this would be X amount, this would be this. And then just give them the reasons why. You say, this is why it costs this much, because it's not just this day of shooting. It's going to take me 5 hours of editing, plus we're going to need 2 hours pre-production. Then you've got your 2 sets of changes. Each change might take 2 hours per change. You've got to even incorporate render times. If you're shooting a project in 4K with, effects, LUTs, all that, and let's say it's a 5-minute video, that's going to take a while to export and render. And while that's happening, you can't do anything else. You can't work on any other projects. So that's just something just to bear in mind. As I say, I delved into it in the previous episode, but find your selected industry, find the key players within that industry, then you sort of ask yourself, do they have content? Do they not? If they have content, okay, is it good content, or is it sort of just filmed on an iPhone? Does it have room for improvement? If it doesn't, and you can see they're really getting sort of top-notch work, that's then your decision to sort of decide, should I approach them? You can still offer their services at the end of the day. You don't ask, you don't get. So you could still ask them, do you want the content? Here's what I do. Here's the price I do. Because it might be they actually prefer your type of content, and maybe you're a bit cheaper than the person they're currently using. Or it might even be the other way around. They prefer your content. Maybe you're a little bit more or the same price, but they want to use you. They want to switch. You never know what internal struggles people are having with their current provider. But if they don't have content, then you can go straight to them and say, okay, this is what I do. These are the services I offer, etc., etc. I think off that as well, as I mentioned, don't ask, don't get. An opportunity not asked is an opportunity missed. So if you don't bother to ask the people in your local area, or these local independent businesses, then how can you expect to grow if you don't ask? At the end of the day, worst they can do is say no. And they're not going to be rude about it. They're just going to be like, no, sorry, we've got someone we're currently happy with, or that's not something we're interested in at the minute. If they say that, you can then often say, okay, well, these are the benefits. Don't necessarily try to do everything online. Try to meet in person as well. So if I would say to approach a local estate agency, what I would do is if they're local, to be honest, I wouldn't even contact them online. I'd just go straight in and just say, hi, I'd like to speak with the manager, or request to have a meeting with the manager. Don't basically put all your cards on the table straight away. Don't make it look like you're trying to sell them something, because they might straight away be like, nah, sorry, mate, we're good. Just be like, I just want to have a chat with your manager or the owner of the thing, or whoever's head of your social media, so on. And then sort of arrange that meeting and then discuss everything in that meeting, because you don't want them to shut you down straight away, like before you've even got your foot in the door. Get your foot in the door, then lay out everything to them. Obviously, you can give them a brief rundown. You can just say, oh, look, I'm just noticed that, you guys aren't using video content, and I feel that you could perhaps benefit from that, because I've worked with some of, or not say you've worked with some of the competitors, but say, oh, some of your competitors are doing this, and I feel that I can offer a service to you that will help you not just get on a level playing field with them, but go above them. Obviously, everyone wants to beat the competitors, so they'd be silly to sort of turn down a 15-minute meeting to sort of discuss that further. As I say, though, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes people just say no. Sometimes you just have to accept that and move on. You're not always going to get a yes, but you're not always going to get a no. But as I say, an opportunity not asked is an opportunity missed. So don't ask, don't get. Next, I'm going to move on to social media. And social media can be a really interesting one. Now, I'm mainly going to talk about Instagram for this segment. But in terms of using Instagram, you can sort of, use it in two ways, really. You can use it as to showcase your work, so as a online portfolio, which I know a lot of people do, and they will only ever post their work online. Then you can do just personal brand, so it can just be about you, doesn't have any relation to your work. That can absolutely work fine. I know lots of people who earn very good money doing videography a year, and they don't post a single piece of work content online. So it can easily be done. Don't think that you have to have Instagram as a portfolio in order to grow your business. It's just another way you can. It's just different avenues. It's whatever you feel works best for you and what you're comfortable with. You can also sort of meet in the middle. This is sort of where I have fallen, I guess now, is where I do, part of it's my personal brand, part of it's my work. It sort of depends. For me personally, a lot of my client base and my work over the last couple of years has been heavily built over Instagram and the, I guess, shareability of my work, but that was also partly due to the nature of the work I was doing. So obviously when I started out, I was heavily shooting nightlife work. Obviously a lot of these events companies are on Instagram, their client base is on Instagram, their competitors are on Instagram, so it all gets spread about, and you know, that's how it sort of naturally, organically grows. But as I say, that was unique to me. It'll be different to each different person. Obviously that's the sector I've come up in, so that's the only sort of experience I can speak on in terms of that. As I say though, within regards to showcasing your work, there's also, I mean, I'm sure you would have come across them definitely on Instagram, is that people who use the profiles as a portfolio, so almost as their website, so everything's neatly laid out, or you might have seen quite a few people do like a nice grid layout where everything sort of flows, nice colour themes, nice colour tones. And as I say, it sort of depends really how you want to market it. There is neither a wrong way or a right way. So some people hate on the grid or like a preferred tones and layout, and some people don't care. It's sort of, I went for a stage where sort of through summer I like to keep it nice vibrant tones. Through winter it's more like my blues sort of tones. But in general, I don't really care sort of what order I post stuff, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, if you're uploading, say, one photo at a time and you're not doing like the 3 photos across a grid, and you're trying to keep in sort of color tones and different images on different lines, you don't know when someone's viewing your profile. So I do find it a bit, it's not weird, it's not really funny, I guess, but it's just where people have uploaded once you sort of commit to doing 3 photos at a time on that grid, obviously once you stop, you then have to go through that transition period where stuff's not going to look aligned. So just something to bear in mind. As I say, there's no wrong way, there's no right way, and there's no wrong way. One thing to do though with social media is, and I guess this comes down to whether you pick personal brand, like a portfolio, or a mixture of both, is work out who your target audience is. Now, by this I mean is, who do you want to see your Instagram profile? Do you want potential clients, or is it just sort of just to showcase your work and people who are interested in your photography life and what you do? Or do you have it where it's just your personal and it's just to sort of just portray what you're doing in life? Now, depending on this will obviously depend what route you go down. So if you want to just get clients, just get work, then you're realistically probably going to go just for more the portfolio sort of route and just to showcase your work. If you're not really too bothered and you might get clients out of it, you might not, you're more lean towards the personal branding. Me personally, I think it comes in a crossroads. So when I went through a heavy stage a couple of summers ago where I was posting work, but each time I did the work, I then posted a GoPro clip to do with that work. So whether it would be behind the scenes, or I'd landed somewhere, I'd take a photo. If I was catching a flight, GoPro photo. Literally my Instagram turned into GoPro photos and work. They're all still edited to look nice and to look pleasant, but it was basically, I guess, showing that I was busy and showing that I was in demand. And I think in turn, in a weird way, that did help me get more work. Now, that may be quite hard to sort of get your head around, but if you see people are busy, or if someone is busy, you'll see they're in demand, straight away that then sort of ticks in your head like, oh, okay, like these guys must be quite good, if they're in demand and people are wanting them and they're flying all these places, they're doing this and that. It can create a perception. And that's why I think personal branding is quite important. How you carry yourself, obviously it comes under reputation. Now, as I say, some people don't post anything relating to work, and they have it say I'm going to use an example. James Matthews Media just posts like his travel content on his Instagram, and that's sort of just what he does really. And he likes to keep it just that. He doesn't post any of his work. He'll maybe put stuff on stories if he's behind the scenes on something. But other than that, it's just that. James is a very successful videographer. And has he got work probably off of Instagram? Probably because of his personal brand. People have seen how he has built himself up, and it's all very nicely well presented. They can sort of get an idea for his personality and who he is as a person. And I've mentioned it before that people buy people. So someone can do amazing work, but if you think they're a dickhead, you're not going to use them. And, you know, unfortunately, that's the way it is. I've done it before. People have asked me an opinion of a different camera person, and I've said, yep, their work's great, but you're going to hate to work with them. Like, you're just really not going to get along with them. Told them the reasons why, and they've then not booked that person. So people who say people don't buy people, that's all crap. It's not, especially maybe not so much on the larger end, but if you can't get along with people, or people don't like working with you, even though your work is to a high standard, that's then not going to carry over, and it's not going to end up in you getting further clients. I've taken a bit of a tangent there, so I do apologise. But as I said, just working out your target audience. So it's just really important. So if you want to know that you want to aim to target some clients, but you also want to put up some of your personal branding stuff as well, just go for it. Just make sure everything's nice and clean, it's correct, and filter everything before you put it up. Now, I don't mean edit it. What I mean is just be aware of that image you're putting out. Okay? Be aware of the perception, the wording of the caption. I have seen some videographers who, and it's completely up to them, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, however, they will post their work up, and then the next day they might post I don't know how to explain it, something that I wouldn't deem necessary or sort of works to their benefit in terms of, I'm trying to think of the right word to use, but basically post something that isn't doing their brand any good. They're not gaining anything from posting it. I'll hold my hands up. I've probably done this once or twice before. Over the summers, a couple of years ago, I remember I was just posting loads of work all the time, and then probably one time posted one or two photos or stories of me sort of just stunting for the gram. I hold my hands up to it. I've done it. I'm sure we've all been there. Maybe it's a phase you go through and you just grow out of it sort of with maturity. But yeah, I've sort of realised now that doesn't benefit me or my personal brand in any way. And as I've sort of said before, less is more. So you don't always have to brag about everything you're doing, or say, I've got a job, or I'm going to film in Dubai in 2 weeks, buzzing to get this opportunity, blah, 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 blah. And then 2 days before, the gig falls through and you don't go. Shit like that can happen. That's why I never really talk about a gig until I'm actually on the gig, because if that gig falls through, you look like a dickhead. And then it can look like to some people that you're just lying, you're making stuff up, saying you're working with clients when you're not. And as I say, again, perception, reputation, it all comes under personal branding. What I'm going to move on to now is do your research on potential clients. Now, by this, what I mean is, if you say wanted to, let's say a sports coach. So if you wanted to approach a sports coach and you sort of wanted to provide some content for them, and you've arranged a meeting, you've got a discussion, you're going to talk about how you can create some sick content to help them develop and build, and they've got some cool ideas, is just do some research on them. Now, I don't mean go full-on FBI shit into their profiles, but do some research. Have they ever used any content before? Scroll through that Instagram right to the beginning. See the journey of how sort of that company or how that person has developed to the point, where they are now. This doesn't mean you have to reference it in any conversations, but if they say something, you might remember. And I've had it before where this has happened and something's come up in a conversation, then lightheartedly I'll be like, oh yeah, was that like when you did this and this? And they're like, oh, you know about that. They're like, you do your research. It's just sort of, it's not being creepy or weird, but it's just understanding the client's full sort of biography, I guess, in a way. But it's just understanding the whole background. It's like when you go into a job interview, you research the company before, because if they ask you some questions on it and you don't know nothing, you look a little bit stupid. And it's just adding general knowledge, and it's not just knowing the knowledge for the sake of it, but you can then apply that to different situations. So let's say something, I don't know, a situation happens and they react in a certain way. If you didn't know all the background knowledge, you might be like, well, why on earth are they acting like that? That's really weird. But if you've done your research and you can see online or seen something's happened in the past that relates to that, you can be like, I see. That's why they've reacted like that. I'm now going to act differently and approach it in this way so I don't come across the same as that situation did in the first place for them. It's just building your general knowledge up and just learning how to work around people. There's so many different types of people in the world, and everyone's had so many different experiences. And as they say, you don't know what has gone on previously. So just sort of keeping an open mind with everything, and just being aware that saying something in a certain, you can say one point to someone in so many different ways that have such an effect. Context is such a massive thing, and how you say something to someone, just changing. I do it all the time. Like, I'll write something out to someone, I'm like, no, that sounds way too rude, or they'll perceive that as being really like abrupt, and yeah, I shouldn't mention it that way. Just change one or two wordings, and the sentence sounds so much different and sounds so much better. And I guess it's empathy again, seeing it from someone else's point of view, and just realising how people are going to take that. But as I say, just do your research, you find their background, and just build your knowledge on that individual or the business, and sort of their journey from the beginning to where they are now, because that will then help you when you come to pitch the video content or whatever the content creation is to them. And lastly, I just want to touch on just a couple of little bits, and it's having a website. It's one of these things that I feel like it is still essential to have. Even though it's probably not used that often, it is still essential to have. A lot of the larger companies, like your bigger brands, will probably go through your website at least at some point. So you have to have it. It's like one of the things, you just have to have it. But the key bonus of having that is you get to basically have a email address linked to that. So my website is evpro.co.uk. By having that, it then means I can have an email address saying contact@evpro.co.uk, info, bookings, weddings. It lets you have that website email address. I can't explain how it just looks really unprofessional if you give someone your email and it's, I don't know, revans6545@live.co.uk or at hotmail.co.uk. Now, these websites, nowadays it's so cheap. There's always deals on Squarespace, Wix. Even if you do it just to get the email address, just do it. Get the hosting just so you can have the email address. I think I pay for mine. I think my Squarespace and my email hosting, I think I paid 2 or 3 years. 3 years worth was 180 quid. So but I got that on discount. So I think it breaks down to about maybe £80 a year total. You can probably get that cheaper. I know to some of you guys, if you're just starting out, that may seem a lot, but you're going to get that back in at least 1 gig. So don't worry about it. It's just one of them things you need. It makes you look really professional, and it's sort of just one of them must-haves. You just sort of need it, I'm afraid. Some people may think that's incorrect, but as I say, again, personal image, personal brand, reputation, all comes under one thing. In my opinion, I think it's needed. So another bonus of having the emails is that even if you're just starting out, you can make yourself still look very professional and as if you've been doing it for quite a while. So having an email address, having business cards ready. I tell you what, a great example of this, and I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning him, is Cameron Batet. I think I'm saying your last name right, man. But basically, story about Cameron came to the photography show, to the meetup that Noel did. He met everyone, and he handed out business cards. He'd only done a few jobs. He handed out business cards to everyone with his telephone number on, his website, and his email, like his work email address. Now, at the time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was 16 or 17. Firstly, that's such a big thing. He's come to a meetup. He knows there's going to be other video people there, and we might have potential opportunities for people like him coming through. He supplied us with his details. Really nice guy. Has just said, look, here's my details. Drop me a message if you've got any bits coming up, and go from there. Now, I acted on this. I had a shoot in London. I knew Cameron was based near London. I said to him, look, I want some behind the scenes content. Do you mind coming down? Yeah, I'll pay you for your travels. I paid him a bit as well on the day. And we did a clothing brand. It was Kilo Oscar. And he shot all the behind the scenes for us, got some really sick photos. Because I was too busy filming, obviously, the actual content for the brand, I wasn't able to film any BCS. So Cameron did that for me. On the day, obviously, he got to network with me. Obviously, everyone else on set. The guys who actually owned the company as well, the clothing brand. Now, off the back of that, there were then times that I then couldn't do work for that clothing brand. And I know the owner of the clothing brand quite well. And he's then gone to Cameron. And off the back of that, Cameron's got photography work for them. And also got video content with him as well. And I think that's brilliant. Like, that is a prime example of reaching out, networking. He went out of his way to sort of, make these cards up, have a really professional feel. I know he didn't have many gigs on his portfolio, but I've taken him on. I'd liked some of the little bits of content I'd seen. Took him on, said, yo, look, come down. You can see how I shoot. You can just test. You can do whatever. I'll let you have free reign. Obviously, just don't interrupt the shoot behind the scenes. You got to see, obviously, how a set worked as well. And off the back of that, he's then provided the content. Obviously, to me, I've then forwarded it. The client enjoyed it as well, the behind the scenes stuff. And they've then used him going forward onto future gigs. He's then got a full, just because he handed that business card, he's then got a full client out of that that's then paid him to go do photo shoots, to go do video shoots. So that's what I mean, is an opportunity not, hang on, I need to get it right now. An opportunity not asked is an opportunity missed. That's why it's so important. You don't ask, you don't get. So Cameron literally just popped me that thing. And I think he sent me a DM as well as a little reminder. Oh, look, by the way, if you need any little bits, I'm more than happy to jump on board and help out. I just think it's literally just a prime example of how just reaching out, getting involved in the community, building a network can then lead on to potential clients. Because off the back of that, he's then got a full portfolio, but he's then worked with the models. Then models will then go work for other clothing companies. Them clothing companies might be like, oh, do you know a photographer or videographer? They might say, yeah, actually, I know this really cool guy that we work with down in London. His name's Cameron. Okay, cool. What's his details? Boom, another one. Then that happens again. Boom. Do you see where I'm going with this? It is just then constant, just spider webbing off all the time. That's why network is so important. I really can't stress it enough. And in a weird way, people, obviously I mention it so much and people may think, oh, you're focusing too much on that. But a lot of it just comes subconsciously. You just do it naturally. Once you do it enough times, it all just becomes natural. You don't even realise you're doing it. I network now and don't even realise. I went to a gig last night in London. Got chatting to one of the photographers, as I always do. I always make it a little thing to say hello to any other photographers or videographers there. Got chatting, got his details. Boom, we're now both aware of each other in the social world. I'll start looking at his work, he'll start looking at mine. It might be then that I have a shoot come up that I feel that his content is great for. I bring him in, he then does the same to me. Boom, another set of clients. Boom, another circle of people that know about us. It is that simple. And sometimes it can just be as simple as just saying, oh, hi man, my name's Reese. What's your Instagram, man? Let me hit you up. Like, what's your photography page? That can literally be all it is. Slide in the DMs. I just can't put enough strain on it. I really can't. So yeah, I just think that's just a massive, especially with Cameron, it's a massive example of how just going that extra step, he had the website, he had the email, he had everything ready. He was really polite. He just did everything in the right way. That's now led him on to, he's got a major client there that will no doubt then lead on to more work. And it's really interesting. I've seen his work improve so much over like the last year, where like the content he's producing now is sick for a kid who's like, he's only like 18, 19. So it really, really is important, guys. And there is so many more subjects you can dive into, and I will save it for other episodes with different guests. Hopefully you want to get Danny back on. But yeah, social media is a massive one. I know I've mainly spoken about Instagram there, but there is just so much you can delve into. Just remember, you've got your local area. Do not dismiss your local area, your local businesses, your local entrepreneurs. There's so many different avenues no matter where you are. Even if you live in a small village of 2,000 people or 4,000, whatever, there will be an independent barbershop. There will be an independent shop. There will be a coffee shop, probably an estate agent's. There is always avenues for work. You just have to think outside the box and just look for where there's potential work. There is potential work everywhere. Even like social media influencers. If there's a social media influencer who lives in your area, just Joel Blackman, Joelography on Instagram. He's a great one of this. So he networks really well with sort of all your reality stars. The guys fresh out of Love Island, does their videos for them, does them a bit of a discounted rate. He then gives them the video. They love the video. They then literally shout his praises all over social media. These guys are coming out of these reality shows to 1 million plus followers, and they're shouting him out, tagging him. Like, that's at least going to lead on to one gig. That 50 quid he knocked off the gig, trust me, he's going to get that back. So it's all worth it. And me as well, I've done gigs before where I've done gigs for free. I'm not going to say the client who it was, but I did gigs for free, and then off the back of that, I had another client contact me 3 days later who hadn't even seen any of the work from that gig I did, and they basically wanted to book me in, and they booked me. I said, "Oh, how comes you're booking me? I haven't seen any of my work." Well, they were there, and they said, "No, if that person has used you, I know I can trust you." And off the back of them, I had thousands of pounds worth of work. So it really just does show that sometimes just doing the little key maneuvers, the little chess moves, can help you win the bigger picture. So I hope you guys have taken some insight out of this and some value out of it. If you're watching online on the YouTube, on the video, let me know about this set. I want to put some wall art up. I want to get some photos, some posters. Yeah, I'm not sure how to fill it, and maybe some more practical lights as well. Because it's cool at the minute, but it's a bit bland, and I need to spice it up. Audio listeners, really appreciate you listening as well. I put a survey out the other day, and it seems a lot of you are listening sort of on your travels, on your commutes, on your working. I hope the length is okay. I'm sort of averaging them around the 30 to 45 minutes per episode. Some are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter. Next week's episode is a fucking blinder. I've got Missing Link on the podcast. It's a long one. It's going to be split into two, but man, it's going to be a crazy episode. I'm really, really looking forward to getting it out there. As always, guys, whatever platform you're listening on, please subscribe. Please leave a review as well. It really does help. And if you've got any comments, any suggestions on any new little topics you want me to cover, let me know either on the socials or in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. So, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Egg Explosive Podcast. I will see you again next time. Peace.